You are listening to the Mary Jane Society podcast, where you will meet entrepreneurs, cultivators, scientists, doctors, and inventors in the cannabis industry.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Pam Schmiel. The Cannabis Media Council was founded to build bridges between the cannabis industry and mainstream media, elevate advertising standards, and help shift public perception through strategic public service announcements. Acting as a think tank of forward-thinking industry leaders, the Council believes in collaboration over competition, sharing knowledge and resources to make sure that all boats rise. Today, I'm joined by co-founder Amy Deneson to explore the mission behind the Cannabis Media Council, its operations, and the impact it wants to make across media, marketing, and culture. Let's welcome Amy Deneson.
Thank you so much for having me. I am Amy Deneson. I'm the executive director and co-founder of the Cannabis Media Council. The Cannabis Media Council is a trade council that serves now over 400 industry members who have raised their hand to be part of this council that agree with our mission that is twofold. One is that we need to deprogram the war on plants and also people. And so the way that we do that is we put out pro-cannabis advertising, so pro-cannabis PSAs, in order to encourage people to reconsider the plant, reconsider the industry that continues to grow. And so while we're extremely proud of our award-winning campaign, which is I'm High Right Now, it's been out for 3 years. It specifically features our elders getting to know the plant anew. And if you haven't seen it, you can check it out at I'mHighRightNow.com. But in addition to leading by example, not only for our members, but also for the industry as a whole, we have over 26 board members who are a volunteer basis, contributing their expertise, their time, their resources, their networks, in order to help this industry grow. One, because we have the universal need to grow the addressable market of curious and confident consumers, if any of us are going to succeed. And one of the ways that we can do that is through advertising. Advertising is the most underserved part of the marketing mix, and there's a number of reasons for that we can get into. But in order to help marketers really understand that advertising can be part of their toolkit, is that we author every year a free resource called Full Spectrum Guidelines for Responsible Cannabis Advertising. We're now in our 3rd edition, recently released for 2025. And it's over 100 pages of case studies, of best practices, of legal templates that you can cut and copy your name into and get going with advertising. And so over the course of this conversation, be happy to talk about why advertising, but then also how cannabinoid advertisers can get going with media publishers that are excited to receive them as business partners.
So you're talking about paid advertising.
Correct.
To do paid advertising, billboards, magazines, commercials, CTV. Okay.
The banners, radio. We're talking about sponsored posts in people's newsletters. So anywhere that you can pay to play is what we're talking about with advertising. And advertising to be differentiated from the other really important parts of the marketing mix, which are our owned channels. So those are the channels or the media that we have branded. So that's our website, that's our communications, meaning email, text message, and then a little bit of a gray area of owned when you go onto our branded social contents, but you want an organic side. Most people think of their social handles and accounts as owned. And then, of course, the earned dimension of marketing. And so the earned media or the earned channels include PR, influencer, if you're not compensating them, and endorsements, partnerships. So the paid part, so the trifecta of marketing is owned, earned, and paid. And paid really does include everything that you are in a transactional relationship with in order to place your content on a publisher's channel or network.
So maybe I guess we should start with, where we are today. Of course, you always hear people talking about getting shadow banned and, but, Facebook has started to open up, Twitter
Mhm.
kind of, I don't know how many people were actually utilizing this, so I can't wait to get into the case studies. Um, you know, and especially now that hemp beverages are really taking off and gummies too. Obviously, this is all very important, but they don't have the same rules. So I guess where are we? What can we and what can't we do? And of course, we know that's a state by state issue also, as far as like billboards and things like that. But I guess on a national level, where are we?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's the foundational question that every marketer is asking of is can I advertise? I think we've successfully over the last 3 or 4 years, as Cannabis Media Council has come to advocate for these channels. I think we've stopped saying that we can't advertise. I think people now realize that they can, and so they're asking where and how can I make it count for my business. And so that's also part of the guidelines is not only an increasingly growing in terms of, businesses coming to market, but then also competitors coming to market, and then also budgets remaining fairly scarce and really underinvested in notably the marketing dimension within cannabis. And we understand because of 280E, we understand all of the reasons why and where it's scheduled with the Controlled Substance Act. But the whole point of issuing the guidelines is to show where it is possible and why marketers should consider this as part of their business strategic plan for go-to-market. And so to your question specifically around meta or channels or case studies, that is the heartbeat of why we supply peer-to-peer learning. So people take a look at what is being done and saying, well, can I do that? And here are the steps to do it. And so Meta is opening, notably for hemp-derived brands and beverages that we're seeing proliferate. And in this issue of the case studies, we're really proud to uplift not only that I'm High Right Now as a campaign was included on a Meta campaign, and we were live and specifically wanted to generate conversation. And so at the middle of this year, so I want to say around March or April, we had a really successful question and answer campaign that was live on Meta. And of course, we're an idea. What we are putting out is someone to think about the sector as anew. So we're not selling anything. But the case study in this issue with House of Puff and media partner, Transparent E-commerce, we detail out how House of Puff during dry January, or as this particular brand likes to call it, Spritz January, nothing dry about it, was really a moment to talk about how a hemp-derived product could be successful on Meta, especially during a seasonal holiday that's entirely mainstream. And so I don't know if an elimination diet is so much a seasonal holiday, but a seasonal moment, and be able to capture that's gaining widespread adoption and provide a cannabinoid product for that time if people were stepping away from alcohol but wanted to look for something different. And the Spritz is a water soluble product that you can spray in bubbly water or directly under the tongue for an experience. And so showing the success through this case study allows other cannabinoid brands to take a look and see what's possible for them. In a previous edition, we had a case study for a dispensary retailer finding a way to get to market on Meta, stay live and stay compliant. And so there's lots of nuances, there's lots of rules. We're all familiar not only with geo-targeting, where you are in your local market. Also, what are you selling? What landing page are you driving to? So there's lots and lots of considerations. And in the guidelines, there's actually a checklist for either one, if you're thinking about engaging with Meta, or two, if you're thinking about giving it a go yourself. And so really encourage people to check that out, but also read the case study for a hemp-derived product being successful on a meta campaign. And that's just, one channel. There's also radio included. There's also, paid is not only, open to, being open to the publisher endemic. So we have Curio Wellness that partnered with the most long-standing local publication in Baltimore, the Baltimore Magazine, to talk about their dispensary opening. We have a retailer with Surfside, who we're very familiar with, serving the cannabinoid sector, to drive through their specific opportunities for retailers to uplift through the Surfside Commerce Media. And more. And Bark in California is partnering with local radio in order to foster that hyper local connection. There's nothing like local radio to build immediate trust, and then also be within the right broadcast boundaries and all the geo-targeting and all the good things that we need to be aware of for advertisers. And so with the case studies this year, I think that there's quite a few from tried and true, which is local radio, to new and emerging channels that are coming online that people are interested in.
Yeah, and also a part of the problem is that everything's so localized, regional. So to advertise on big levels like that, ROI, thinking how much your ad spend, right, versus you're capturing just this small area, but also it doesn't make sense to advertise nationally yet. I mean,
no, not at all.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. So I guess really everybody just has to stay local. And also, I mean, nobody is spending on, marketing, PR. There's no budgets for this stuff. Talk to any marketing person in this industry, and the money is a big problem. So, but of course, I think the importance of this council is to prepare and, start thinking about this. We don't want to be, thinking about it when it's already happening, and getting all prepared. But what are some guidelines that we really need to know about?
For the Cannabis Media Council, we issue 7 pillars of responsible cannabis advertising, and it's meant to be inspirational and educational to an extent. But honestly, the goal of it is to set a higher standard for our industry as we're growing. And so it is meant to complement all of the regulations that marketers are beholden to in order to be compliant for the markets that they're operating in. And I'm sure every marketer has a constant tab open on their desktop in computer for following those regs to the absolute dotted I and crossed T. What we intend with the council is, one, to continue to advocate that legal businesses should be able to advertise in legal markets. And so that's our first pillar. There are 7 pillars. And so as an organization, we will continue to not only advocate for that business right, but also to then hold this industry up. And as we grow, take some of the best practices and learnings from other industries and apply it. And so it's meant to be inspirational now, and in a complement to the regulations that everyone's in compliant to. And then we also hope that it serves as this industry does become federally legalized, and we start to be able to have national buys and national presence through these campaigns, is that we are able to show examples of people who have done their very best through self-regulation and through compliance and through the need to get to market because they have a legal business that needs to sell things. And so be able to show that as tried and true practices to then shape future regulation that can be practical and actually representative of the business needs of this sector. So in addition to continuing to advocate and open channels for media, for cannabinoid advertisers to get to market, we also encourage that the that medical for the medical industry, that patients be, in addition to HIPAA and all of the medical cannabis regulations, be treated with dignity, and be shown in a light of this medicine, and how it is impacting patients' lives. And so also thinking about, from an adult use, as we start to bring in more and more consumers into the space, to be inclusive and diverse and respectful of the many cultures that this sector represents and connects with. There's also another pillar in which we talk about creativity, unsubstantiated, but many people do talk about how cannabis is wonderful for creativity. And so thinking about how advertising is a creative endeavor, building a business is a creative endeavor, consuming cannabis fosters creativity. So let's, as we do our very best to get to market, let's hold ourselves to the highest standards of creativity within this channel. And yes, we need to drive performance, and yes, we need to keep an eye on budget, but storytelling, community building, helping people, be inspired to consider these products anew is all part of advertising. And so in thinking about advertising and why we need to invest in it, is it's often the first touch with a very, very new consumer to you as a brand. And so there's ways that, if you think about the marketing, funnel of awareness to conversion, awareness is the very first step, is often, a brand reaching out to circles that don't know that they don't know that they don't know you. And so that's why you advertise, one of the reasons why. And if we want to grow the addressable market, then advertising does need to be part of our mix. And to your point about budgets, not only does it need to be legal, but it needs to be invested in. And you're right, cannabis marketers are working with 2 to 5% of an annual budget, if they're working with a budget at all. Oftentimes marketing is dependent on sales. So if there's no sales, then there's no marketing, even though that's a bit of a chicken and egg conversation. And so I know that it's really brutal out there in trying to get to market. And so in addition to us wanting to provide the opportunity to do so, if there are funds to help make the business case to marketers that they can get to market and that these channels are performing for others, and so they may perform for us. We also need to show the value through the Cannabis Media Council of having multiple voices uplifted on a category level campaign. And so that's where we come in. We know that there's only so far that individuals, brands can go alone, either because of budgets or because they're concerned with their markets, rightfully so. But we have 100 years of misinformation to counteract. And so as a council, we serve the pro-cannabis PSAs on behalf of the industry as a whole, because we know that individual brands can't afford it. And so as a council, we're receiving donations in order to create the campaigns. And then all of the media that we serve on is donated from media partners who are raising their hand to say, we accept cannabis advertising, we are welcoming to the sector. And so through that absolute epic chain of generosity, we're able to be a tide that lifts all boats, and help to put out those awareness level campaigns that individual brands simply cannot afford.
Yeah, and I always think about that too, how to move forward. I've always thought, it's about education. It's to me, it's more about proof of concept, proof. We need, I mean, even though there's like what, 30,000 some medical PubMed articles and proof, we just have to keep proving more. And I just feel like hard facts is what's going to get it over the line. And that, to me, that's why I love to write about the science behind it, or, things like that, or the science of the extraction, or, things where just to be educating people about this whole process, out there about that kind of stuff. And what kind of legal templates does someone need to engage with the advertising, like say a radio advertisement that you would have to worry about, or special things that you might think of?
Certainly. So the legal templates that are provided there's two of them. One is a template for if you are a cannabis brand or a cannabinoid brand engaging with a media company. It allows you to specify what kind of cannabis brand you are. Are you a medical cannabis brand? Are you an adult use cannabis brand? Are you a retailer of those brands? Are you a hemp-derived product? And then also be able to specify if you're an ancillary provider to that space. And so it's a template to say, this is the kind of advertiser I am. And so we now need to align with what are your community guidelines or legal guidelines around what your publisher and what network will receive and support. And so then we start to get into the nuances of content and calls to action. And so then the content, maybe we won't show product or, and we certainly don't recommend it, but most will not show consumption. And then thinking about, the messaging of, can it be informative that you're a brand and you're located here, or that you can find out more information here. So thinking about the nuances of language, and then the calls to action of, are we allowed to have links? Are we allowed to have QR codes? Are we allowed to say buy now? And that's when you start to get into the conversation of really setting the foundation of who you are as an advertiser and what you want to do. And those are the best ways to start those conversations, because media publishers are just getting to know this category. And so trying to understand, the nuances of slicing and dicing of the cannabinoids, and then their corresponding, regulatory requirements, is something that we're endeavoring to help onboard our media publishers and partners. And one way to do that is by really reviewing the template and saying, this is what we're going to do, and this is what the media company is comfortable doing throughout their channels and in their community. The second template we have is if people are engaging with paid influencers, which is another one that is really, really important to take a look at, because it's really not, it's really not okay or advisable to turn product over to an influencer and let them say whatever they want to say, even though it may be absolutely sublime, because the brand is held responsible for anything anybody says about it, and then even more so if they're being paid by the brand to do so. And so there is a template for engaging with influencers, and how to make sure that your brand is not only engaging with someone who understands the nuances of this sector, but then also there's an accountability for them to understand and be in partnership with the brand. So then there's a template for engaging with a paid influencer in the guidelines.
Yeah, that's a good one. And actually the one before for engaging with the media, because I guess, as you mentioned, they don't know what they don't know. So for a brand to come and say, hey, this is what we want to do, or some sort of a checklist of things this is what we're going to mention, and they might think, oh, wait a second, no, like, so.
Or yeah, we're great with that. We welcome your money.
Yeah. Have you seen good, that's been a topic over the past couple of years as far as celebrity branding or influencer branding. Have you seen any good ROI on that? I feel like it's a mixed bag of people. I feel like it's kind of mostly been negative.
Yeah, I do think that celebrity endorsement or a celebrity-led brand is certainly something that we're seeing, and we're trying to figure out if it's going to serve in the same way that it serves our retailers or our CPG brands as they come to market. Certainly, it is a way to amplify. And so depending on the ROI metric that you're looking at, and so yes, of course, sales. I understand that that's a KPI, but so is our impressions. So are, reach. And so if someone has an enormous platform and your goal is to reach millions of people, one way to do that is with someone who has millions of people who pay attention to them. And so I think it's important for a marketer to be clear about what is their KPI, what do they want to see return to them? Because if we're measuring, engagement, and someone saying, come hang out with me, and win a sesh with me, and you build your email newsletter list by hundreds of thousands. And then now you have a direct channel to reach people who are interested in your brand and the experience of your brand. That's extremely valuable. And so I think it's really important for marketers to see that not only people need to, as they know about you before they can buy anything from you, and investing in that full, discovery, awareness, engagement, conversion funnel is still important in cannabis. And one way to do that, is by partnering with people that have an audience. But we must make it creative. We must make it authentic. It must be fully integrated with the brand. Otherwise, consumers will tell us that it seems, shallow or too shiny. And so I think that there's also some good practices there as well.
As far as advertising opportunities, I was just at the BevNet show in New York.
Yeah.
Last week or the week before. So the National Mainstream Beverage trade show. Oh, there was a panel discussion with someone from Live Nation, and he was talking about how wellness drinks are becoming very, very big. Because of course at BevNet, that's all that everybody's talking about, functional wellness drinks and hydration drinks and things like that. And so he did say that category is doing really well in all their venues, but he stopped short of saying we want to sell infused hemp brands or beverages. So
I definitely think that major gathering venues, so concerts, sporting events, all of those venues.
Bella, aren't they?
Mhm.
They're like setting up all these wellness drink, the non-alc movement at these. That's the other thing.
Precisely.
Yeah, it's the non-alc movement. Anyway, so but
And so, yes, I've received a lot of interest, and we're hearing a lot of interest. It's state specific, of course, but for example, in Minnesota, went quite a few rounds on behalf of a brand who not only could do marquee sponsorship, but could also have their hemp-derived products sold through concessions. And so the hemp-derived products are, I think, really interesting to people who are selling concessions, because it gives that middle option or another option besides alcoholic or non-alcoholic, and then also this opportunity to be elevated. Mostly we're looking around 2 to 5 milligrams per serving, but a sessionable experience that people who understand their tolerance with cannabinoids can moderate, but providing something that is a beverage that's elevating, but is sold alongside the options. And so I do think that people are really interested in the category. Non-alc is absolutely soaring, even though non-alcoholic beverages are getting more and more delicious. I do think that there is a need and a consumer desire for there to be an elevating beverage that so far, depending on how much sugar's in it, there might be a bit of a sugar crash, afterwards. But we're really seeing that people can consume hemp-derived products without the hangover, and the hangover by what we mean, with alcohol.
Yeah.
And so that, of course, needs more research and it needs more understanding of what's at play in the body. But, from the case study of one for myself, or, the experiment of a few anecdotally, is that, hemp-derived beverages are something that, you can go and have a great time with, and wake up the next day sprightly, or finish out the rest of the day, with energy.
So are you seeing any hemp, the hemp runaway train giving the industry a bad name? I don't know. What do you have to say about that? Are you doing anything about that? Like, is the association or the council doing it?
The council, we go with the legal market. And so we will support, what is legal, what is regulated, and champion the best actors in those industries. As far as are we hearing that the hemp-derived categories, number one, many people who are in regulated THC or regulated cannabis are also in the hemp-derived THC production as well. And so oftentimes they're the same people in the same brands, just going through a different distribution channel. But truly the most that I've heard is that the hemp-derived products are doing the most to normalize consumption. So seeing
Right.
hemp-derived beverages at Total Wine, just to name one major retailer that we're hearing a lot about, to be able to consume, or to consume and pick up, a 4-pack when you're getting another 6-pack is a consumer behavior that's understood. You can DoorDash it from Total Wine, also a consumer behavior that's entirely understood and part of people's daily activities. And so I think that the challenge for us is to talk about the cannabinoids that are available at Total Wine versus the cannabinoids that are available at dispensaries, and how to bridge or how to communicate, to consumers, how they can, how they can start to understand, what's a great Total Wine experience or a great hemp-derived, beverage category that they buy online. And then consume at home versus like going into dispensary and really learning about all the different forms, all the different content. Yeah, like, the flower, potencies, terpenes, the differences in manufacturing and so forth. High right now is focused on uplifting our elderly consumers. One, because they're a major consumer of this category and of these products, but also because they're overlooked in advertising in general. And so we wanted to flip the script on cannabis, as well as that our elderly are our spokespeople. They, within the family, are leading conversations about cannabis. And if, auntie's okay, with cannabis at the table, because she's using it for her own reason, or if grandpa's okay with cannabis, in the golf cart because it helps him actually walk the course as opposed to be in pain. We really wanted to uplift our elders and how they consume the category, and then also, position them as leaders in their families to have intergenerational conversations with their adult children who are thinking about consuming, or are thinking about, taking on, higher levels of care for them as they're aging.
Yeah.
And so not only do we want to showcase them, we wanted to create a forum to spark conversations, and have them ask us questions. And so now this 420, we just released the second version of the I'm High Right Now campaign, where in the ad creative, we're actually answering many of the questions that came to us. And so the Cannabis Media Council takes a lighthearted approach. So for example, one that we put out was an elderly gentleman holding his head and saying, can cannabis stop this recession? And of course he's talking about balding, or we're talking about the economy, we're talking about the economy. It's like all in there. But we took the lighthearted approach of may not be able to do anything about balding, hereditary, losing your hair, but may care a little less about your follicles once you're a little high. But because many questions do deserve a very nuanced, a very serious conversation, we've partnered with Leafly. Leafly for over 16 years has been putting out information on dosing. It has been putting out information on where you can buy legal cannabis. And so we'll continue to roll out information as a conduit with Leafly as a brand and a business partner that's done extensive work to help consumers get comfortable and have a good experience with cannabis. And then we also have partnered with LeafWell, and LeafWell being a leading provider for medical cannabis cards and access to practitioners, and also absolutely revolutionary in some markets, able to have cannabis care not only integrated into their care, but covered by their insurance. And so LeafWell is doing incredible work on the clinical practitioner side to integrate care. We've got a ways to go for covering medical cannabis products. But in terms of care and having them be integrated in with all of the other things that you may have going on, with your health, and with your with the pills or the medicines that you're taking, to include cannabis is a great step in the direction. And so in addition to us wanting to keep the conversations flowing and using humor primarily, we are so thrilled to be partnered with these two leading organizations to provide business or clinical information when it's warranted and needed.
Yeah, that's a great partnership, definitely. Yeah, that's so you can filter any inquiries or whatever, anybody who wants this kind of information. So I guess kind of winding down, what are some of the inquiries that you get mostly from people in the industry?
Many people want to know where they can advertise, how they can make it work for them. Why can someone do this and I can't figure it out? Can you please tell my investment team that we need more money in marketing? And can you please tell this municipality that I'm a legal business and that I need to, advertise my business if it's going to stay open? And so there is so much need. And we also hear from media publishers saying, can you help me validate who is a good brand to work with on the advertising side, but also on the editorial side. And so we also serve as a conduit to say, here are the members, they're doing their absolute best to be on the right side of history and laws. And so they're great leaders. They're licensed businesses, they're compliant to interview, to uplift their products, to link to their businesses. And so in addition to advertisers, wanting to figure out how they can incorporate this into their strategic go-to-market plans and budgets, we also hear from media saying, how do I know who to work with? How do I sell this to my either legal team? How do I sell this to my community standards team? And then it's how do I bridge them to my editorial and reporting and make sure that everyone feels comfortable with this new category, and it takes champions every step of the way to reimagine this plant, because we've all been misinformed, and so we've got generations of misinformation that we're all, like, personally and then also professionally within our lives working through to reestablish these channels, because ultimately we need to reach consumers who are open to this and ought to be able to consider this as something that they want to potentially incorporate into their medical care, into their wellness care, or into their enjoyment, and an option and understanding how they can enjoy these products.
Right. Wow. I guess, is there anything I've left out that you think I should cover? I feel like we've gone through everything.
Thank you. This has been a great conversation. I welcome anyone who's been moved by this, who has used the guidelines and has found it helpful, to please let us know. Also, we are a tax deductible donation organization. Almost nothing in cannabis is tax deductible, but a contribution or donation to the council is, and so we are able to accept that through a fiscal sponsor. So we welcome donations to keep this campaign and this work going. And then also, please, if you are an operator in this space and open and curious about becoming a member, we welcome you to reach out. We are free with high values. And so if you also see the goal and the aim of coming together with collaboration over competition in order to grow this market, we welcome you, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, so I guess that would be my question also. So there's no fee to be a member, but what's the requirement to be a member? Just to share your expertise?
For the membership, so with we have a board that is an active working board. But then for the members, it's really about raising your hand to say, we believe in this mission. We believe in it's necessary. We want to be seen as being open marketers, wanting to drive these businesses forward and appeal to business partnerships with advertising and media, and in order to reach their consumers and be in business partnerships. But really, it's as simple as agreeing to the manifesto and signing up online and letting us know that you're with us. And you will continue to evolve membership and services and engagement as we go. But first step is really about wanting to grow this industry and how we're shaping public perception together collectively, and then also be part of doing so yourself, and taking the resources that are being provided for free in order to grow your businesses.
Actually, one more question. Do you have any mainstream publishers as members as well?
Oh, definitely. So also not only as members, but then also people who have donated inventory, donated ad space for the campaign include Hearst. They include Schneps Media. They include Meredith Dash family. And so you think about like Food and Wine. And then we also have Meta, who has run our campaigns. Not donated, an agency donated in order to run the campaign on behalf of their agencies to show how their compliance is different. That's transparent e-commerce. And so they funded running the Meta campaign in order to show how they are differentiated and how they bring brands to market for paid campaigns. But yes, so many of the mainstream publishers that we've gone direct to, but then also, through the Surfside network, they are on a number of mainstream publishers, and by our request, through the programmatic bidding workflow for programmatic media on digital display. And so that can include, banners, it can include, native advertising, CCTV, as you were talking about, or over the top. And so lots of good opportunities there. And yeah, all mainstream.
And then do you do monthly or any sort of meetings? How do you get the members together, like just talking and whatever?
We do. We foster friendly connections, and you're totally talking about 2.0 of the Cannabis Media Council as a trade organization. Is how do we foster networking and relationships through this incredible group? And so we welcome people's also leadership in developing that program. And so for right now, we're able to bring them together. And now the next step is, how do we get them working together?
Cool. That is so cool. I'll definitely going to go look, definitely join. And I want to look through your resources, and if I can contribute anything, I certainly will.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that I learned about this organization. I obviously keep seeing it, but I never had the time to understand it. So really appreciate everything. And that's great. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.